Welcome to Immigration Invasion, a podcast where we explore the ridiculous and absurd aspects of immigration law in the U.S. We're your hosts, Asma Din
and Robert Armstrong.
How are you doing, Robert?
I'm good. Good. It's been a week again, as is typical with me, where I'm going in several different directions at once. For those of you guys that don't know, we're both immigration attorneys with our own practices. So it's a little bit of being a lawyer plus also being a small business owner, and that pretty much describes my week.
Yeah, having to wear a lot of different hats.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same here. I've had a pretty crazy week, just like caseload wise. Finally decisions are starting to come in on some cases, which is good. But yeah, just having to like kind of switch from like kind of the lawyer hat to the business owner hat. Sometimes it's just it's a struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we did our rehearsal for this episode, I was thinking a lot about the stuff that I did a week or two ago when I traveled and I did all these things. But, with us being a couple days out of the election, feels like none of that's relevant, right? And I think that's the big thing that's top of mind for us right now in 4 days, 5 days?
Yeah.
The 2024 election is going to occur. And that's eating a lot of real estate upstairs for me, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. I think it's weighing on a lot of immigration attorneys' minds for sure. But and we don't want this episode to be about that. All we want to say is that, and I'm sure most of our listeners have already voted. But if you haven't done so, make sure that you do take the time to make sure that your voice is heard, and the voices of immigrants are heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your vote is very important. We're not going to beat, I don't know if the horse is dead or just lame, or we're not going to beat this, because we don't want it to be that kind of podcast. But your contributions to this country, are what earned you your right to be a citizen here, directing this specifically at our immigrant listeners. And I mean, if it didn't matter, nobody would be trying to take it away from you. So don't fall into that idea that, I'm not going to vote either way. It doesn't matter. No, it does matter. Get out there, do the vote. I think that's the public service announcement for this episode.
Now we want to get into broken news.
Yes.
Okay, this story brought to you from an extremely credible source, also known as TikTok.
TikTok news, yes, I believe that's what it is.
And so a funny thing about this. So the original video, and I was telling Robert, was posted in Spanish, and I'm not a native Spanish speaker. I don't really speak much Spanish at all.
Yeah. What is the secondary language, or what languages do you speak?
I speak Urdu, which is basically Hindi. When India and Pakistan were all one, it was just Hindi, and then now with Pakistan being post-partition, it's now Urdu.
Yeah.
So
and I do speak Spanish, so I'm was born in Panama. But it's funny because we have noticed that there is a little bit of overlap in certain phrases and certain terms, like in Arabic, right? Any countries where there are a lot of Muslim people. I'm Muslim-splaining to you for some reason. I don't know why, but people say inshallah, right?
Yeah, and that means God willing.
Yes.
Or hopefully.
Yeah.
So.
And then in Spanish, there's a phrase that, I've had in my lexicon since I was a little kid. And it wasn't until like a couple minutes before the podcast that Asma pointed it out. Ojalá. And ojalá comes from anybody? Arabic. And we know it's true because I just Googled it. So there's definitely overlap in that experience. So I am not surprised that your latent ability to understand Spanish came out when you most needed it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it just goes to show that I am fluent in gossip because that's really what this was.
Se habla chisme.
Se habla chisme. So this video was posted in Spanish on TikTok by a young lady who is a U.S. citizen, and she lives in like San Antonio area of Texas. And basically what I got from it was that she was going through her boyfriend's phone because she needed some photos that they had taken together from a vacation that they went on. So she's like scrolling through the like little photo gallery on his phone, and this guy, very smart man, had screenshotted his Snapchat messages.
It defeats the whole purpose of Snapchat.
I know, right? And so he had done that and he's talking to another woman, and that's what the messages were, and very clearly had cheated on her. And so this idea comes to her mind of like, well, you know what? We have a day off coming soon, me and my boyfriend, and he loves Six Flags. So I'm going to tell him that I'm going to drive him to Six Flags.
Yep.
And
that's how you get him.
Yeah. And so keep in mind that there is a Six Flags in San Antonio. And so I don't know how long this guy was asleep for, but when he woke up, he saw a flag, but it was not
one of the Six Flags.
One of the Six Flags.
It was the seventh flag. The flag of Mexico, and the ride that he got was not the Batman coaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, like, crazy story. And so when this news story broke, that same week that it broke, I remember I had like 3 like people who had consulted with me. They were just like very upset US citizens who like felt like they had filed paperwork for somebody who either like cheated on them or left them, and so they kind of had all this like bitterness like during their consultations with me. And, a lot of it was like, how can I get this person out of here, right?
Do you guys take revenge cases?
Yeah. Like, do you guys take revenge cases? And I'm like, no, I don't.
No.
But there is this video on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. It's this instructional video. It's if you want to DIY, maybe you can try it. It's not legal advice. We're not suggesting you do it. Whomever, the idea of it is brilliant. I mean, I don't care if it's not 100% true even, because just the idea of it.
Yeah.
And I think we all have had consultations where, one partner, the petitioning partner, seems to be way more in love with the person being petitioned, right?
Yeah.
And, the vibe's a little off, but sometimes those relationships work out.
Yeah.
But then even among those, there are a couple of them where they stick out even further, and it's pretty clear that one person thinks they're really slick or really shady, and they're getting over on the other one, not being truthful about a whole lot of stuff. And I frankly don't feel bad when they get their comeuppances, I really don't.
Yeah.
Because
and I remember we were talking about this because I kind of struggled with this a little bit, where I was kind of like, okay, like, in one sense, right? Like, and you hear this story and you're like, F this guy, F cheaters, right? But like when I put my little immigration attorney hat on, I was just like, oh, well, you know what? Like maybe she took it a little too far, but then I take that immigration attorney hat off, and then I'm like, this guy screenshotted his Snapchats and left them on his phone. So I don't know, maybe he deserves to get deported just from like a sheer stupidity standpoint.
That should be an admissibility right there. You know, like when you're presenting yourself at the border, CBP takes your phone and they go through. If they see screenshots of snapshots, of Snapchats that are incriminating to your relationship, they should just turn you around, at least put you on hold.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
put you on a hold. Secondary inspection. Yeah. And you. I want to say that you're a little kinder than I am. You're a kinder person, because I know I see that, and immediately the Schadenfreude warms my chunky little heart. You know, it just does. I'm like, yeah, good. I'm glad. I'm good. That way you can learn. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, the story. I'm hoping it's true. I hope it can be used as a cautionary tale to other people that are messing around. Because in the big picture, all you got to do is not be an ass for like 3 to 5 years, and you're set. You're a citizen. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And she said in the video that she thought that the relationship, that's where it was headed, was towards marriage. And so, you know, she was planning on fixing him and all of that. And then he just had to be a cheating ass.
Yep. Well, that's why she was like 212 A9. See you later.
Yeah.
That one's for the lawyers. That's for the lawyers. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, hey, let's go to a bar. Which bar? The 10-year bar. Yeah. So she's an anti-hero.
That's what I think. She really is. She is.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's our broken news.
Yeah.
And again, given the weight of the impending elections, I don't feel like there's any need to get any like really heavy serious news. Plus, nothing really is gonna roll out. So
yeah. Exactly. So, okay.
Yeah.
So this is our first official episode. And this episode is titled Assemble Your Crew, aka Building Your Network as an Immigration Attorney.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. Why is it important to build your network as an immigration lawyer?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the most basic big picture reason is that this work is difficult. It feels lonely, especially if you're a small practice or a solo, right? But it isn't actually. There's almost nothing that you're going to be doing that hasn't been done before. With small exceptions, because some of you guys are probably doing really weird stuff. There's a couple. There's not a lot, but in every city, there's one or two attorneys that everybody else is like, that doesn't seem right. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. But the rest of you, you're not reinventing the wheel. Yeah. So instead of having that pressure and stress, you got to do it all by yourself. You rely on the people around you. Get a couple. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch, but get a couple of people that you can lean on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the importance of building your network, it sort of evolves. That's kind of how I've always thought of it, where when you're a younger attorney, maybe you build your network so that you can have some mentorship, right? And then as you get more established, you're building your network to kind of see, like, maybe you decide, what, I don't like these type of cases. I'm busy enough. Here's who likes these types of cases and is good at them. And here's who I want to send these to, right?
Yeah.
And then, also as you kind of grow and evolve and your practice does, particularly if you're on your own, you kind of need to build your networks in the sense of like seeing who in your immigration attorney community that you see as somebody that you want to model your practice after. You really like the way that they have built their practice up or the way that they do business. And so you want to add those people to your network.
Yeah, definitely. I think another benefit is when you're more established, it's easy to get stagnant, I think. And bringing in new people to your circle, whether it's younger attorneys, people that are interning or looking for internships, injects the fresh air, a little bit of fresh air, right? And and that's important because I don't think you realize how fast time flies and how quickly you get settled into your own habit, your way of doing things. And when you've got somebody that's newer, they're looking at things from a very different perspective than you are, right? And you can think about a lot of the attorneys that have been practicing for 20 or 30 years, and they're like, nope, paper file. It's the way I do it. I've always done it that way. It's the only way to do it. And obviously, for the most part, practices have moved away from that, right?
Absolutely.
So there's got to be stuff like the younger attorneys and interns and stuff like that are going to be bringing to the table that we're just like, well, in my day, we used an iPad, whatever.
I think, in how they like brand and market their practices in particular, like they're using a lot more social media. And so, that's definitely one thing that, kind of the older attorneys can definitely learn from. And also just how they like view cases and using AI. I think that's another thing as well. Like I think a lot of the older attorneys some of them might be like, oh, I'm not touching this, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I think, the younger attorneys might be, kind of integrating a lot of that into their practice in ways that, some of the older attorneys might not be aware of. So yeah,
definitely. So I mean, I think it is a journey that building your network should occur organically as you go through your practice, as you travel down the road of your practice, because the people that you meet may fit one part of your journey and maybe not fit so much in a different stage. And so you don't want to get to a point where your older network has kind of moved on and you're just there with nobody. So you think you continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about how to build your network. So let's kind of talk about different ways in which you think people can utilize or use to build their network.
Yeah, one of my many sayings, I have many sayings. Most of them are pretty dumb or inane or whatever, but I have them. And one of them is showing up is slept on, mm-hmm. right? And that means, just show up to stuff, whether it's, networking events or someone invites you to go have lunch. I know it's a little bit, it seems like it's a little out of fashion after the pandemic and everything went to Zoom and digital, but there's just not the same type of room for making connections when you're doing things in Zoom as when you're in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know we've Robert and I talked about this quite a bit because, we've been now practicing for over 10 years, both of us. And back when pre-pandemic, I mean, the courtroom, that was how you met other immigration attorneys, particularly if you practice removal defense. That was how it was there, USCIS. And so, in this like kind of post-pandemic world where, most of the judges are allowing us to appear via Zoom, a lot of us are taking advantage of it because we can get work done in our office, while we're just waiting for the judge to get to our case. And so, if you're doing that, I think at least showing up, right, for CLEs, for like non-court stuff, and again, USCIS is all in person. So, I think that there are definitely opportunities still there post-pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. Because court, when we first started practicing, anytime you went to court, it was like going to, being in the hall of high school, right? And you had all the attorneys kind of lined up there, leaning against the wall, and the different cliques or whatever. It's still has some of that vibe, but much less so because of that online component. And the same with these conferences. Almost every conference now has the option for the remote, right? You pay X amount to go in person or X amount for remote. But speaking from personal experience, last week I went to the UT Law CLE conference in Austin, and it was 2 days. A lot of the stuff, was probably tailored to younger attorneys that don't know certain things, but I did get a couple of sessions where it was great information, and that's great. But the time in between the sessions was what's most valuable to me at this point in my career, because it's an opportunity to reconnect with attorneys that I've met that are from other parts of the country, an opportunity to network with people that might want to refer clients to me if they're coming to the Dallas area. So that in between space is valuable, and you just don't get it in a digital Zoom video call.
Absolutely. Okay, so I would say, Robert, that most people would classify you and I as extroverts. What if you have a more introverted personality? Like, how would you recommend that a person who's more of an introvert basically get out there and network and build their network?
So I think the way to do it is to be scripted about it, right? Make a plan it out. I actually am an extrovert, but kind of right on that line where once my social battery's done, I just kind of draw in and I'm just like a turtle, right? And because of that, I actually get along really well with introverts, and I'm surrounded by them. Like my wife, both my daughters are introverted. And it seems that they do best when they're in a situation where they kind of have a plan. So if you're going to a networking event, just kind of get an idea of what you're going to do when you're going there. Like, I want to meet, make 2 connections, or even so far as saying, hey, I have this particular routine. Like me, whenever I'm going to a networking event, if I don't know anybody, I'll walk around the edge of the room and kind of look for people that are either on their own, or in smaller conversations. It's not necessarily getting into the big crowd of people that are the most excited, but looking for those small opportunities to make one-on-one connections, being more of a person than a people person.
Yeah. I really like those suggestions a lot. I think that those would really help people with kind of more introverted personality types. And I think also something just simple is that I thought of initially when we posed this question was, now I think with technology, it makes it a little bit easier for people with more introverted personality types to initially make a connection request, for instance, on LinkedIn with somebody that they really admire, that they want to follow. And then once they kind of are at like a comfortable level to reach out, to then send a message and like kind of have a back and forth. And so, one thing I will point out that I think that's very special about the immigration bar is that I feel like, that we're one of the nicest bars. Like, we don't see each other as competitors. And I genuinely feel like most immigration attorneys do want to provide mentorship and like help out. And we kind of, are all united against like this fight. And so I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to an immigration attorney. Every time I've done so, I've only been met with just kindness from the attorney that I reached out to. So
yeah, it seems like it's not as hostile because most of the attorneys that you're interacting with are going to be on your side of representation, right?
Yeah.
The government attorneys, whether they be judges or working for ICE, DHS, they don't usually go and network and connect outside of work in the same spaces that you do.
Yeah.
And while there's definitely value to networking with them when you get an opportunity, most of that time is going to be with clients that represent people as respondents or applicants or beneficiaries, etc. So you're not clashing with each other during court, which I think makes it so that your interactions can be more positive, can be about connecting and uniting against, fighting the good fight against Goliath, right? So I actually wanted to go back real quick, and this just came to me when we talked about introverts and how they should,
Yeah.
network. Extroverts also have challenges, and I know that my experience is that even though I'm the extroverted part of me makes me quicker to be able to make that initial connection. As extroverts, you actually also have to watch out to turn it down a couple notches because
Yeah.
it's very easy to be too much, right? If you're too extroverted and someone's trying to have a conversation, and you're just like dominating it, that also has its downside. So, and I only say that because, for people that are introverted that are saying, yeah, I'm more of an extrovert, I can't really network. That's the wrong approach. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that one is a little bit more heedless about jumping into those
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about a little bit of what our networks look like. So, Robert, why don't you kind of describe what your network looks like?
Yeah, the best analogy I can think of is like when you cut a tree, right? I'm saying this as if I've cut a tree before, like a lumberjack. When I've watched a TV episode where a tree has been cut, there are concentric circles inside, right? And for me, that's a good representation of what it is with my network. I've got people that are on the outskirts that I've heard of or might have run into, and as you get further in, it's people that you interact with more and know better. But once you get to that inner circle, it's small, purposely small. There doesn't have to be a lot of people there. And I mean, I have like a handful, literally a handful, no more than 10 attorneys that I would say like are in my inner circle, and 4 attorneys that are in my innermost circle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's about quality, not quantity, and understanding that you don't have to be best friends with everybody. It's
Yeah,
just,
absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say that my network basically mirrors yours, Robert, where that I do have that like very inner circle of people. And then, and then kind of going in the outer rings, a lot of great attorneys where, maybe we don't talk all the time, but whenever we do, it's just like, it's great. It's great back and forth. And then, as I've sort of evolved as an immigration lawyer, my network is now starting to include, criminal defense attorneys, family law attorneys. When I have questions about those specific areas that affect my immigration clients, there are people that I can reach out to. They send me referrals and vice versa. And so I also think that that's important too, as as your network builds, to kind of make sure that you have referral sources outside of immigration law.
yeah, agreed. When you're only networking with other immigration attorneys, even if you're very amicable, one thing you're not going to see a whole lot of is direct referrals, right? Unless you become known as the attorney that handles, like in your case, crimmigration, right? In my case, asylum cases, which takes a while for you to get there.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, networking outside of immigration only is another way to get yourself out there and become the immigration attorney for other people. And there are a couple people outside of the immigration sphere, litigation sphere, that every now and then will call me and say, hey, Robert, I know you're doing immigration, and, I've got this question or I've got this issue. And it's great because I'm not competing with anybody there. I'm probably the only immigration attorney they know.
Yeah.
And the way that I met them is that I went to some event that was not directly related to immigration.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a very good point. When you're a younger attorney and you're in that hustle mode, that is so important to kind of like be known as like, okay, there's this criminal defense attorney. He doesn't know any immigration attorneys. And so that really helps in the beginning of your career for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now let's talk about what can your crew do for you?
Yeah. I mean, I obviously if you guys haven't picked up on it, Asma is definitely one of the people in my innermost circle, right? So I think about the things that we're able to do for each other, and in my case, if I have a question about a particular issue in the law, if I am not able to be in two courtrooms at the same time, and one of the judges or both of the judges are real persnickety, well, I've got someone that can help me cover. Anytime I get a consultation where stuff gets real weird, I'm already calling Asma. I'm like, hey, this situation is really off, and it helps because I can get out of my own head. And that's, aside from that, the feeling of knowing that you have someone that you can vent to when things are going bad, or go and get celebrated when things are going well. Those are probably the most the things I get the most often out of having my inner circle.
And I think the victories are so important to share within your inner circle or your crew or your network, just because we all know, particularly with removal defense in Texas, the victories are very hard fought.
Yeah.
Extremely hard fought. And your spouse, your loved ones may not understand, they might not get like, oh wow, like how difficult it was to get that victory. And I think that's kind of where your crew comes in to kind of help you celebrate that.
Right.
And so, I think that's a very important point.
Yeah.
Here,
so what about you, Asma? What has your circle done for your network done for you?
So, the first thing that came in mind when this question was posed was like, this time last year, I was super, super pregnant, like very, very pregnant. And there were a few cases that I had. Of course, this always happens, like when the craziest moments of your life, like all of your like kind of weird or difficult cases start getting scheduled for interviews, either with USCIS or in immigration court. And I had a particularly difficult adjustment of status case, and I still remember this from last year. And I had called Robert. It was somebody who entered with a CD visa. And he had entered the country with his CD visa, but he didn't have a contract to work as a crewman. He had previously worked as a crewman, and he basically his notation on his in his passport was just CD. Like basically under the law, what BIA had said, my argument was that he did not in fact enter as a crewman. And I remember that Robert had covered this case for me because I was so pregnant. I was so pregnant that my OBGYN knew that I was nuts, and she specifically told me like, hey, like don't appear for things anymore. and so I had told Robert about this. I was like, this is kind of like a weird set of facts. Like, I really think that like this is like we're gonna prevail on this. It's just we're gonna get pushback from USCIS. And Robert went in there like really like, was like kind of went and like argued with the officer, got me on the phone. And, the officer was saying all sorts of like dumb stuff that was like not the law. Like it was great because everything she said was so incorrect. Like, and he had me on speaker, and I remember being on my on my notes thing in my phone and just typing it out. Like, she literally said that all we do is look at CD and assume that they came as a crewman. And I was like, oh, wow, this goes completely against everything that the BIA has ever said.
Well, I thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
Very specifically. Yeah.
Very specifically that. And I just remember that case because then, got the denial, said that, oh, we believe that he's not eligible for adjustment. And all like the same stupid stuff that she said over the phone was also in the decision. And then, appealed it. And, thanks to Robert. Thanks to him for like making those arguments and getting me on speakerphone when that was going on, we won. And that is just an example of what your crew can do for you. You know, don't have people just show up for you. You really want them to show up for you.
Yeah.
And that's really the benefit of having a network, having a crew, having people that you respect, that respect you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that very, very well said. I mean, once you've developed that trust, you just know that you can count on them. You know, I mean, at a subconscious level, right? And,
yeah.
And I've I shared this with Ozma and you know, before. Ozma showed up in one of my dreams once, right? I had, and this probably happened right around the time Judge, was it Hanlon or whatever?
Yeah, it was just
struck something down, or I mean, he's several of them, and it just bothered me at my core, right? And in this dream, I was at the airport and I was being detained and hassled, and they were like talking about deporting me back to to Panama or whatever. I'm like, I'm a citizen, and they didn't listen to me. And I just remember in my dream, I was yelling, I was like, call Ozma, she's my attorney. You know, like that's how you know you've got your inner circle, is like when you have dreams of being deported and like your inner circle shows up behind you, like
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's it makes this crazy, tough, insane area that we work in much more livable.
Yeah. I definitely agree. All of that. Yeah.
So before we close off this topic, something that came to mind as we were talking, right, is that one of the things you can do to make it easier, once you've identified somebody that you want to be in your network, is think about what you provide to them, right?
Yeah.
And kind of lead with that. Whether it's if you're a college student and you want to be an intern, you lead with that. If you're looking for a mentee, or a mentor, think about what are some of the things mentors are looking for, and ideas, conversation. But the ideal networking connection is going to be one where there's some symmetry. There's some back and forth. It's not just you. You calling somebody every time you have a problem is not a network. That's not how you network, right? Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those people get put on the most external of the concentric circles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that's a very good point though. I think it's just like basic things like that, is seeing what you bring to the table before reaching out to somebody and leaning in with that. And then also, just simple things like saying thank you and just, yeah.
Throwbacks, like, thank you emails.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love the throwbacks.
Yeah. Classics. They're classics.
Okay. Now, let's kind of get into, I think, a very fun portion of our podcast. So, okay, this portion is called Hit or Kit.
Hit or Kit.
Okay, and so where this comes from is if you grew up in an immigrant household, mm-hmm. there was always like a box of cookies that you would find. It was usually like a blue Danish cookie box, and you'd get excited, and it was always hidden somewhere, mm-hmm. and you'd open it, and basically 9 times out of 10, it would be full of sewing supplies.
Yes.
And so this is what this is we kind of throw some immigration news or rules or...
Yeah, proposed law. Yeah, we talk about it, and we, we'll explain, tell you what it is. We'll tell you if it's a hit or a kit, and then we'll explain why.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a throwback to radio stations when they played new music, and they're like, we got this new music out for you right now. It's hit it or quit it. Give us a call. Let us know if you want to keep it or not, blah, 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 right? Same thing. It's we're going to be looking at it and thinking about if this is something that's good for the immigrant or bad for the immigrant.
Absolutely.
Right? Good for attorney, bad for attorney. If it's good, we hit. It's a hit. If it's bad, it's a sewing kit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, let's get started. So, okay, so keeping families together, the Parole in Place program that was put forth by the Biden administration. So just to give a little background on what this is, this was proposed back during the summertime, I think initially, and and it's meant for people who a lot of people who were eligible initially for the waiver process. You have to meet certain qualifications to be eligible for this, like. I believe the immigrant had to have been here for 10 years, married to a U.S. citizen by a certain date. And so, you know, they put this program in forward because the waiver process was just taking such a long time. It was creating such a backlog. And
it's resource intensive to the government as well, right?
Absolutely. And so, you know, people were very excited about this because I think there was a lot of fear for a lot of people who were going through this process where they came from places where it was scary to even go back for like a week for the interview process. And of course, you know, it's scary departing, not knowing whether or not you're going to get approved for the immigrant visa.
Yeah.
So, you know, about a week after the program rolls out,
almost to the day,
to the day, Texas, of course, and a bunch of other states kind of lead this lawsuit against the Biden administration with Parole in Place, kind of going forward. And so right now, the posture of the case is that it's currently set for hearing in district court on November 5th in Tyler, Texas. November 5th is just going to be a crazy day.
Yep.
And so, hit or kit?
Okay, yeah. So this one's tough, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to check it because it started off like hit, but it's kind of kit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's see. Pop it open. Let's see.
Let's pop it open.
It's kit.
It's a kit.
It's kit.
It's sewing kit.
Yep.
Okay.
Needles and sharp stuff. Not delicious at all.
So the reason why this is a sewing kit is that right now USCIS is not permitted to adjudicate any of these applications. They're still accepting them, but they're not adjudicating them. So, kit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and it's frustrating because it's not a benefit that's being given to a group of people that don't have other benefits available. It's a very narrow application.
Yeah.
But I just knew that they were going to sue to stop it.
Yeah.
You know why I knew? Because when they announced it, I was happy. I'm like, oh, I'm smiling. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure enough, they
and I think we all had a bit of whiplash too from like DACA. Like when they reopened DACA again to first time applicants, it was just like, oh my god, so exciting.
Yeah, and Judge Hainan was like, no.
Yeah.
Call me Mr. Rain for your parade. I don't know that he sounds like that, guys. I don't know. I've never heard him talk. Okay, but in my mind, it's just like that, like Mr. Smithers kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if this is ever going to get out of court. I don't know if it's moot at this point, because sometimes all you have to do to get rid of a law is just get it stuck in the court, like DAPA.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I don't want to end I don't want to end the first episode on kit.
I know. I have the same feeling. So let's talk a little more about kind of
let's roll the dice again. Let's try one more time.
Okay.
So, Ninth Circuit. Ninth Circuit, as usual, put a smile on our face, and they upheld the right of asylum seekers to come into the U.S. and ask for asylum, right? We're not saying that they upheld the right for them to cross over without permission or cross over irregularly, but to be able to be let in without being metered. And metered means the government, the U.S. government arbitrarily picks a number and says, hey, we can't take more than, however many, say 10,000, right? We can't take more than 10,000 applicants for asylum per week. And so then we'll just close the border. The Ninth Circuit said, no, you can't do that. And so it's not a freebie. It doesn't mean anybody's going to win asylum, at a higher rate. It just means they're going to get to apply for asylum in the United States as per the international treaties and laws that the United States has agreed to follow.
Yeah, this is great news. I mean, this is a big win for those seeking asylum, and I remember reading the kind of the news blurb on this, and it sounds like a lot of the metering that was happening too was done in a way by Customs and Border Patrol officers where it was very coercive and like kind of just a lot of
punitive.
Punitive, and so I'm very happy about this.
Yeah.
So that means that we all get cookies.
It's cookies. Thank goodness. I don't think I could have taken another kit. Yeah. My heart could not have taken another kit. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So we thank you guys so much for tuning in. We want to kind of briefly discuss our next episode. That one will be called Meet the Inner Circle. We are very excited about that.
Yes.
So we're excited to introduce you guys to our inner circle.
Yes.
And kind of have them on here and chat with them and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that's we're gonna set the tone going forward because we really are gonna try to have a guest every episode. The expertise that you get from the people that are in the area is just immense, and love to just highlight them. So it's going to be a fun one, I think, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching us. We're going to be releasing podcasts initially at least once a month. We may start having them a little more frequently as time permits. You can find us on Spotify. From Spotify, we'll be putting them up on YouTube, eventually on Apple Podcasts. So we're going to get it out there as quickly as possible. But we do appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
Bye.